Hello lovelies, welcome back. Welcome to today's video. I'm actually really excited for today's video because I have always wanted to do a 24-hour reading challenge, but due to my busy schedule, having like a 9 to 5 job, and also like I'm a sleepy girl, I just don't think I could honestly read for 24 hours straight. I do still want to try it, but not yet. I'm not there yet. But I think for today's video, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna start the timer at 24 hours, and then I'm going to just click start whenever I'm reading and just keep track of how much I'm reading within those 24 hours. And I think it'll be a fun way to just kind of like see how much I actually do read in 24 hours, because I think I'm kind of a slow reader. So I don't really think I'm gonna get through that many books, but I think it's gonna be fun to see how many I can. So I'm currently in kind of like a thriller, like horror mood, and I'm currently reading Secrets in the Dark by Darcy Coates. This is the second book in her Black Winter series. The first book was called Voices in the Snow. So I think it'll be fun to start with this one. I did already start this book. I'm like about 40 pages in, so I am a little bit into it, but we still have a whole book to read. So we're gonna start off with this one, and I think to just keep in the thriller mood, I'm gonna try and knock off two books that are on my TBR for March, which is The Broken Girls by Simone St. James. This one honestly just, I can't wait to get to it because it's been on my TBR one forever, but I think it's going to take place in like a school for girls or something, or like an orphanage or something. I'm not 100% sure, but based on the back, it also does like show that there's going to be two different timelines. It says like Vermont 1950 and then Vermont 2014. So I do think we're going to be getting like a dual timeline, which I think will be fun. But yeah, I'm really excited to get to this one. And then the last book I want to get to is The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. I heard so many great things about this one last year, so I'm actually really excited to get to this one. I do think it's more of like a thriller fiction than it is like thriller mystery scary, so I think this one will kind of be like a slower paced one. But either way, I'm really excited to get to it because I heard great things, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what this one's about. But yeah, so those are the three books that I do want to get to. Like I said, I think I'm a slow reader, so I really don't think I'm going to get through more than these three books. But if I do, we'll probably pick up another book towards the end if time allows and I actually have enough time to read a fourth book. I think this will take me 24 hours. I will be really surprised if it actually takes me like 4 books, because I do think I'm a slow reader. I don't know. But we'll see. These are the 3 books I'm going to focus on. So yeah, get cozy, grab your thriller book, and let's like read thrillers for 24 hours. Hey guys, I'm back with an update. It has been a while since I've talked to you guys, just because I did end up getting kind of sick, so I just didn't really feel like talking to a camera. But I am starting to feel a little bit better, and last night I did end up finishing Secrets in the Dark by Darcy Coates. I didn't do an update while reading this book just because this is the second book in the series, and I didn't want to give any spoilers on this. But just to kind of like give you a general basis of what this book was about, the first book kind of takes place in the end of the world kind of situation where it's very apocalyptic. There's apparently this blackout that's happening where nobody really knows what's happening. You know, TVs are not working, cellular devices are no longer working, radios are very staticky, like not really working, and we are following 2 characters in this book, but our main character, Claire, is on her way to her sister's house because her sister has a bunker that they can kind of like hide out in until they figure out what the heck is going on. But as she's going to her sister's house, she ends up getting into this accident, and that's when our second character, Doran, comes into play. He finds her, helps her, takes her back to his home, and the story kind of just like takes place in his house throughout the entire book. We kind of like get glimpses of what is happening, what is this apocalypse, what are we seeing, what are these things that are happening, kind of like we're getting some glimpses, but we have no answers. The first book does end in a cliffhanger, so I will say this book does pick up right where that cliffhanger kind of leaves us off, so I did enjoy that. just picking up right from where the first book ends. And this one, we do venture out of the setting in the first book, and we kind of like figure things out. We get answers to what caused this apocalypse and what's causing these things that are happening. And I'm trying so hard not to give any spoilers, but this one also ends in a cliffhanger. But I do have the other 2 books in the series, and I am excited to keep going. I don't know, the series is just fun. It's kind of creepy in some senses, where I think Darcy Coates is really good at descriptive like elements in her writing, where she'll like describe a situation and you could just picture yourself in the situation, and it's so creepy. And so there are creepy elements to this, but I wouldn't go as far as to say that this is like super scary by any means, unless you think end of the world apocalypse is kind of scary. But I'm not particularly like scared reading this, but there are elements of creepiness that you get throughout the book. I do think this one was a little bit long. It's a little under 500 pages, so it's about like 480 something pages, which felt a lot longer than I would have liked. I think there were just some parts in this that were maybe not necessary, or it could have been shortened a little bit. It wasn't until like the ending-ish that I feel like things started to super pick up, but overall, I did enjoy this. I gave this 4 stars. I definitely think this series is getting better as the books continue. The first book I think I gave maybe 3.5 stars, so this one was definitely a step up. But overall, I am enjoying this series. I can't wait to pick up the next one, and the cliffhangers are getting me, but I do think I'm going to try and continue this soon, because I don't want to like forget aspects of this story, especially since we find out a lot of details in this one that I think are going to be important in the next couple books. So overall, this was fun. If you like end of the world apocalypse vibes, like I do think you would enjoy the series. It's not so much haunted house as it is just like what's happening in the state of our world and what's gonna happen. So this was fun, and I can't wait to continue the series. So I did finish that book with about 16 hours and 23 minutes left. So I do think the next book I'm going to be picking up is The Broken Girls by Simone St. James. This one has like creepy haunted boarding school vibes, which I think could be a lot of fun. So I am excited to get into this one. I hopefully won't take me as long to finish this one as it did the other one, because this one is a lot shorter. It's under 330 pages, so I don't think this one's going to take me as long to finish as Secrets in the Dark did. But yeah, so gonna be picking this one up. I have, like I said, about 6.5 hours or 16.5 hours left. So we'll see how long this one takes me to read. And then when I'm done with this one, I'll be likely picking up the other one. So I will be back with some updates when I do start reading The Broken Girls. Hey guys, I wanted to come on here to give a quick little update. So I am about 12 hours and 58 minutes into this reading challenge, and I am currently reading The Broken Girls by Simone St. James. I'm about 12 chapters in, which is about 112 pages. So I'm a good amount into the book right now, and so far I feel like it's sitting at about like a 3 or 3.5 star. I'm enjoying it, but it's also kind of just like a little bit slow, which I get because it is the beginning of the book, so we're still trying to get familiar with the storyline. But so far, we are following 2 different timelines. We're following the past timeline, which is 1950s Vermont at this boarding school called Idlewild Hall, where it's a boarding school for troubled girls. And the present timeline is Vermont 2014. We're following Fiona, who her sister was murdered, and her murderer was tried and convicted, and it happened at same boarding school, Idlewild Hall. But when the murder happened, it was closed, abandoned, so no one was actually attending the school. But these both timelines do revolve around Idlewild Hall, and in the present day, we do find out that they are planning to reopen the boarding school and kind of refurnish it and make it new again so that they could reopen it to have it be a boarding school for girls again. I think the past timeline is like very interesting because it's more ghost story-ish, where the girls at the school are talking about Mary, who apparently is like this girl that's like haunting the school, and we're following about 4 girls who were switching through their like POVs, and I don't know, it's kind of interesting. I'm curious to see how this is going to connect to the current timeline, because the current timeline we are following, like I said, Fiona, whose sister was murdered there, but from when we find out the school closed back in the 70s to when her sister was murdered, there is no connection there. It's not like the sister was a girl who attended the school or anything like that. So I am curious to see how this is going to connect. I do know that Fiona, our present day main character, she is writing a story about why they're reopening this school after all these years, and I do know that we're going to find out a lot of information, which I do think is going to be a link to her sister's murder, potentially. I don't know. It's very interesting, but like I said, her sister's murder was technically solved, and the guy who did it is like in prison and stuff like that. So I don't know. It's like I said, it's a pretty interesting story. I do think for right now, it's feeling a little meh, I guess, because I wanted it to be a little more scary. I do feel like the past timeline, we are getting little bits of spook, but it's not as scary or like as like suspenseful, I guess, as I thought it was going to be. So there's that. But yeah, so far I'm kind of enjoying this. I'm interested to see where this is gonna go. But I like the whole trying to solve a mystery, because there's a lot of unanswered questions that we have going on right now. So I'm interested to see how those are going to get answered. But yeah, so far this is sitting at like a 3.5 star. I don't know what to really expect. I'm gonna keep reading, and I will be back with an update. Okay, I'm back, and I have finally finished The Broken Girls by Simone St. James. This book was so interesting. I am so stuck on how I feel about it, because overall, do I feel like this book was a masterpiece? Oh my gosh, I didn't see anything coming, like no. But I did enjoy it still. Like, the story was still interesting enough, and it kept me wanting to know how things were going to wrap up in the end. But there was nothing about this book that felt out of this world, like crazy concept or anything like that. A lot of the twists I did see coming, like one of the main twists that's presented in here, I was like, okay, yeah, saw that happening. Throughout the story, we're solving like a case, and like granted, there's like kind of like 2 cases that we're kind of going through, but the main case is the one that we've been trying to solve for like the entire story, and I feel like that one was just like very underwhelming. We find out what happens and everything like that, and it was kind of like, okay, well, we already discussed this theory like several chapters prior, and we already know this, and you're not giving us any new information on it. So it's kind of like finding out what actually happened to the person was very like, it was just underwhelming. I wanted there to be like a plot twist or something else. Like, it was just kind of like, oh, okay, so she already solved it, and we knew she kind of solved it, but now this is just confirmation that she solved it. And it was just, I don't know. The big reveal was just not as satisfying as I wanted it to be, I guess. The story was still interesting. I still found myself really invested. Like I said, there are 2 timelines, and they eventually like meet in the end, and we do get answers to all the questions we had in the beginning. The one part of this that I did really enjoy, though, is that the spooky vibes were definitely like giving. Like, there are some creepy moments in this book where it's just like, okay, that got me. So I will say this did get a little creepy for me. It wasn't scary by any means, but there were parts that creeped me out a little bit. So that was nice to have, because I did want something a little little spooky, a little unsettling, and I did get that a little bit in this. But yeah, I will say, if you want a super twisty book, I don't think this is that. I definitely think you get what you get with this. I think I'm settling at like about a 3.75 because I don't feel like it was a 3-star. I do think it was a little bit better than a 3-star, but I don't think it was a 4-star. So I think I'm settling at like a 3.75 for this one. I enjoyed it. It did give me like, I was interested, I was invested, I did want to know how it was going to end. It's just that some of the twists were a little unsatisfying for me. I wanted just a little bit more. And every time I kept flipping the page at the end, I was like, something else is going to happen. Something else is going to happen. Like, this is going to get crazy. Like, there's going to be another twist that was more satisfying than the twist we got. And that just never happened, which is fine. I mean, the book was still good, like I said, but I just wanted something else. I felt like the big reveal was just a little unsatisfying. So overall, this was still really interesting. I liked having the dual POVs of like the past timeline and the present timeline. And in the past timeline, we also get POV from different girls at the school. So that was also kind of interesting. I'd recommend if you're into like supernaturally vibes, because you do get some of that in this, especially since it's like a haunted boarding school and stuff like that. So you definitely get like those creepy supernatural vibes. So I definitely recommend on that. But if you're looking for like a super twisty thriller that's going to like blow your mind, I don't think this is it. Maybe it's just for me. Maybe it'll blow your mind and it just didn't really blow mine. But overall, I would recommend. I think it was interesting, entertaining, and I really liked it. But yeah, I have a little over 8 minutes left on my clock now. So the next book I'm going to be picking up is The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. I'm super excited to get to this one because I heard a lot of great things about this one last year. And a lot of people liked it. And this one reads more fiction, I think. When I had looked it up on Goodreads to see like if this categorized as like a horror or anything like that, it does say that it's a thriller fiction. Then I think it says mystery or horror. I don't remember exactly. But I'm excited to get to this one because, like I said, I did hear a lot of great things about it. So gonna start this one and I'll be back with some updates. Hey guys, I wanted to come back up here and give a little update. So I'm currently reading The God of the Woods and I am a little over 130 pages. I just started book 3. So this is broken up into parts and each part has like different chapters and these chapters are like different POVs. So I think so far we've had 4 different POVs, which has been kind of interesting. I'm not used to having that many POVs in a story, so this already has 4, which is like a lot. I'm not sure if there's going to be more POVs, but so far there have been 4 different POVs. And another thing that's like super interesting about this is the story has so many different timelines. So the first part goes back and forth between present day and like 2 months prior. And then book 2 also follows like 2 different timelines where it's like past and then another past. So it's just like, it's getting a little confusing, I would say, to keep up with all the timelines. And then sometimes I have to like remind myself, like, wait, what did I just read? Like, I don't know. I think having so many different POVs is what's kind of throwing me off a little bit. And I don't mind so much the back and forth between the past and the present. But it's definitely a lot of information, especially with book 2 solely being on a past of a past. It's just a lot of timelines, a lot of POVs, a lot of character names you got to keep up with. So this one's kind of interesting. But I thought I'd give like an update on what I'm thinking about this book so far because I went into this not really knowing what it was going to be about, and I think I've kind of got an idea of what's like happening. This book takes place at like a summer camp and somebody goes missing and it happens to be the camp owner's daughter that goes missing, and we're essentially just following the story of like before she went missing and then like, okay, now she's missing. And then part 2 kind of gives us before everything even happened. The girl who went missing, her brother also went missing at the same camp. So part 2 is kind of like going into that part of the story, and we do know right off the bat that this boy went missing. He's like, you know, a story that they tell at the camp, because, you know, that's what kids do at camps, they tell stories. So like, he's very well known as being missing, and now his sister is missing, or now she's now missing too. So I don't know, like I said, this story is so interestingly told. The writing is so different. It almost feels very, some parts of it feel very choppy, and I don't know if that's the word choice I want to use, because not in the sense that there's not description in here, because there is description in the book, but I feel like some of the sentences are just really short, choppy, like, and the way it's structured is like your setting is in one paragraph, like this one paragraph you're reading here in one place, and then the next paragraph could be in a completely different place, and then the next paragraph is in a completely different place, and it's just, I don't know, the structure of this, the timelines, the POVs, like everything about this is just very interesting. Not saying that it's not good. I am enjoying it. Like, I am curious to see where the story's gonna go, but the writing style is throwing me off a bit. So I did end up pulling up the audio on Spotify to kind of like listen along with it as I'm reading. I'm curious to see where this is gonna go. It's definitely reading more fiction, so it is definitely more fiction-based thriller than it is a scary thriller. It's very much, we're solving a mystery, but it's not meant to be suspenseful, I don't think. At least I'm not feeling that. But I don't know. I'm interested to see where this is going to go. The story is, like I said, kind of interesting. I'm assuming these timelines are going to make sense eventually. My guess is that the different parts are either going to focus on different timelines, or we're just going to go back and forth between the 2 months ago current day timeline and then the part 2 timeline that was like way ago leading up to the first disappearance of the sun. I hope that made sense. I feel like this book is impossible to explain. I'm probably doing like a really bad job. And I think it's just because, like I said, it is a little confusing with all the different timelines, all the different POVs. It's a lot of information. It's a lot to take in. And it also is it is slower paced. So that mixed with all the information that you're trying to keep in your brain, it's getting a little confusing. But yeah, I don't know. Overall, this is interesting. I'm curious to see where it's going to go, because so far I'm just like, what's happening? Where are we going? Why do we need 5 different POVs? Like, I don't know. So I have about 5 more hours left on my timer. So like I said, I am on part 3, so I have like this much read. So hopefully it's enough time for me to finish this book. But yeah, so we have like about 5.5 hours ish left to go, and hopefully this picks up, because it is a little bit slow right now. I'm gonna keep reading, and I'll come back with an update if I have one before I finish. Hey guys, so I finally finished The God of the Woods by Liz Moore last night, and we finished with about 16 minutes left on the timer, so that's pretty good. I'm not going to try and read another book for 16 minutes, because realistically we're just not going to get through it in 60 minutes, which is totally fine. I feel like reading 3 books was pretty good, but yeah, finished this one last night, and I've had some time to think about it, and overall, I do think this was an interesting read, but I think I have issues with the structure of the story. It felt very choppy, and I think I think it's because of the way it was told. I think I mentioned before that like one paragraph you're in one section and then the next paragraph could be an entirely different scene in a different setting in like the same character, but just like all of a sudden now we're somewhere else. And for me that was just like a little jarring sometimes, because it's just like, wait, how do we just get here? At the end, there were 7 POVs that we get throughout this entire story, which I think is just a little excessive. There was one person's POV that I feel like, did we really need his POV at all? I don't think so. I think it was just to kind of like add a little flair to the story, which I don't think was needed. I honestly feel like we could have focused on even just 3 people's POV and the story would have been better. I also think this was really long for what it was. The beginning did really good at like hooking me in. I was like, okay, where are we going with this? But then for more than like 50% of this book, I felt like it was just unnecessary information sometimes. There would be times where they're setting us up to look for somebody. The person wouldn't even be there, and then we would flip to a different POV, to a different timeline, to a different like setting. Like it would just like be so giant. And then like a few chapters later, we're back at the POV of the person who was looking for this person, and of course now they can't find the person. And it's just like, I felt like we were just going through so many loops, and some of them were like, okay, I get it, but some of them were just like, did we really need to do all of that? Like, why are we even looking for, I don't know. Sometimes the story just felt a little too leading. Like, it's like, where are you trying to take us? Like, why are we constantly going in circles and circles and circles? And I think I mentioned we were following 2 kind of like, well, I guess following is like a weird word to say, but there are 2 people who are missing in this story. The brother and the sister of this like very wealthy family that owns the camp that this story is taking place at. So both of their kids end up going missing at 2 different times, which is why there's multiple timelines. But the brother goes missing years before the sister's even born and her disappearance. So even with the main mystery, because like the main mystery is like the sister's disappearance, I just feel like there was just a lot of letdown in certain areas. The twists weren't as twisty. I do think some of the twists were good though. I'm really trying not to give any spoilers, hence the vague descriptions, but I don't know. Overall, I did like sort of enjoy this. Like the story was kind of interesting and it did keep me at least interested enough to want to finish the book. But I do think a lot of it was helped by the fact that I was listening to the audiobook. I don't know that I would have gotten through this as quickly if 1, not for this challenge, and 2, for the audiobook to kind of like help me stay locked into the story, because it was very easy to just get distracted, I guess. I think I'm landing at like a 3.5 star on this one. I do still think it was really good, and I get that this isn't supposed to read like a typical thriller because it is a fiction thriller. So literary thrillers just don't read the same as like a horror, suspenseful, mystery, like thriller vibe. So I get that in a sense, but I just feel like this one was just too long. I just feel like it was too long. It was like almost 500 pages, and I don't think we needed 500 pages. But yeah, that wraps up our 24-hour reading vlog. Like I said, was left with like 16 minutes left on my timer, which is actually pretty good. And we were able to read 3 books in that time. So just to quickly go over all the books we were able to read during this 24-hour readathon, I started with Secrets in the Dark by Darcy Coates. I think I gave this one a 4-star. Quick little second book in this dark winter series. I thought it was really good. It picked up right where the first book left off. I found it to be a little long too. Again, I had 2 books that were like almost 500 pages and they did feel a little long, so felt a little bit long, but overall I think the story is escalating into an interesting place, so I'm really excited to continue this series. And I think I have 2 more books left in this series, so I am excited to continue the series and finally finish it. But I don't know if I'm going to get to the other 2 books anytime soon, just because we are transitioning out of winter, so sometimes I like to read books based on the season. So I don't know, we'll see how I'm feeling, but I definitely want to finish this though, because I want the story to still be fresh in my mind. So this was good, 4 stars. Then we picked up The Broken Girls by Simone St. James. This one was another quick, fun one. It definitely gave those spooky vibes that I was looking for. This one I think I settled on a 3.75 stars. But yeah, this one was interesting read. This one also took place with like multiple POVs in like different timelines. This one wasn't as much as The God of the Woods though, but this one was interesting. And I also really liked the setting of like the past timeline, being at that boarding school where it's just kind of like haunted vibes. Like that was just really fun to read, but this one was also a good one. And then we ended with The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. And this one was, like I said, just a little too long for me. Too many POVs, too many timelines, but overall the story was still kind of interesting and it did keep me interested enough to finish the book. So this one, 3.5 stars, but overall I'd say pretty good reading. I got through 3 thrillers that I've been wanting to get to for a while, and now 3 books are off my TBR, so that's awesome. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave me a like, comment, subscribe. I would love to know if you guys have read either of these 3 books and what your thoughts were on them, because I'd really be interested to know if you guys share some similar thoughts, or maybe you had thoughts I haven't even had. So please let me know what you guys thought. And yeah, I do hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Bye!